What's good, everyone? Matt here from UK Nets Fans, and I'm joined as ever by Aidan McConaughey for the return of the BK to UK podcast, the British Brooklyn Nets podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 18th of July, and we're chatting about all things Summer League, the league in ahead, the state of Nets world in general, and answering your questions that you've been kind enough to send in the mailbag. Before we get going, make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads now at UK Nets Fans, and check us out on YouTube where you can catch us live and watch back all of our episodes. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Aidan, it's been a while. How have you been?
Good, man. I know. We were just saying November 2022 was when we last spoke. And I mean, if we knew back then where the Nets would be right now, I think we probably would have laughed our heads off, because it's just been madness. It's been complete U-turn, completely different expectations, completely different team now. I mean, we must be down to one hand with how many players that we had pre-KD and Kyrie trades left on the team. But yeah, I mean, excited to talk Nets basketball again. I think there's a lot of exciting things that are coming up. We can get behind this team quite a lot, and it's going to be nice to talk about basketball and not talk about off-court things, which, if we go back and watch the last couple of episodes that we did, I reckon we probably spoke about basketball for about 10, 15 minutes of those episodes combined, because it was a lot. So it's going to be nice to talk about basketball again.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, taking a bit of time away, I think, it's a new era, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new look Nets, it's a changing of the guard. I think it got quite energy sapping towards the end following this team. Like you say, it would be beautiful to just talk about basketball. And that is what we have ahead of us. It might be a long road ahead of us where we can just talk about basketball, and it's not going to be too much, expectations or anticipation of big things going on. But I'm all in. I cannot wait. You can look at the negativity and talk about, how the superstar era, which is now firmly behind us, was a letdown, how it was a missed opportunity. But I don't want to dwell on that. I want to dwell on the positives. And, we're going younger. We've got Mikal Bridges, who is the best contract in the NBA in terms of how much we're paying him, and just how good he is. He's absolutely exploded for the Nets since he made that trade from Phoenix, obviously in that Kevin Durant trade. He brought with him his twin, Cam Johnson, who we've also locked up, who is an exciting player. Nick Claxton is now a phenom, and, was in Defensive Player of the Year conversations, Most Improved Player conversations. I remember at the beginning of last season being a bit grumpy with Nick Claxton. He was going into year 4, and we were like, look, we need to see some more stuff from Nick Claxton. But he absolutely delivered in spades last season. So he's going to want to get paid, but let's cross that bridge when we get to it. At the moment, we're looking great. The upside is there. We've shipped out some bad contracts in, let's take a moment to appreciate all the good stuff Joe Harris did before, unfortunately, just completely going missing, especially in these last round of playoffs. We've said goodbye to Patty Mills and Seth Curry, the elder statesman of that past Nets team. So we've moved bad contracts. We're getting younger. and we're looking forward. We've got a chance to do a hybrid rebuild, which I first kind of sort of got that term when we're talking about the New York Liberty. And a hybrid rebuild means, we've got prime Bridges, we've got an emerging Claxton, we've got good young pieces as well, which can all sort of develop together and create something special. We've got a new coaching staff. Obviously, Jacques Vaughan has the reins. I think he's going to be a decent coach as well for setting out his stall and giving us sort of a team that's going to develop and going to move forward together. So it's a bit of a throwback to the Kenny Atkinson era. Obviously, it feels like a long time ago, 2018. With the team of your Jarrett Allens, Karis LeVerts, that kind of ilk that we all fell in love with. Many of us are Nets fans because of that team, and that's what attracted the superstars to come. So yeah, it's a different look, it's a different feeling, it's a different vibe, but I'm ready for it, man. And let's dive straight in. There's been plenty of would you say Nets basketball is back when it's just summer league?
Yeah, it's diet Nets, really, isn't it? It's you get a taster, but it's not the real thing. But you know what it's like. We've been, after getting knocked out, after getting swept by the Sixers, it's been a long time since we've seen the Nets play basketball. So you've got to take what you can get. So yeah, no, I'd say you can enjoy summer league.
Yeah, I did the maths. It's been 87 days since we've had meaningful Nets basketball. So, obviously we're going to take summer league with a massive pinch of salt. But yeah, it's nice to talk about something generally kind of Nets basketball. So I'm all in. As an overlook, we're gonna get into the positives and the negatives. But what kind of stood out to you?
I think overall, they definitely kind of went past the expectations that they had. I mean, as a team, I always think at Summer League, the attraction's always around the top 3 picks in the draft. You always think they're going to do well. I always remember Lonzo Ball when he went second to the Lakers. He was really impressive in Summer League. They ended up winning it. And it tends to kind of go that way, that usually there's a guy that's kind of high up in the draft that ends up winning the Summer League. But I mean, this year, it wasn't really like that. It was kind of, there was a lot of kind of some older guys, a lot of guys that are fighting for NBA slots, and that's what this Nets team was really, barring obviously our rookies. There was a lot of guys that just had to prove themselves to get into the league. And overall, I think they played a really kind of fun brand of basketball. It might be a bit of a hint as to what we're going to see this year. High energy, very much defensive orientated. I couldn't believe how good some of the guys were defensively. Some really surprising performance individually in the team. I was surprised by David Duke Jr. I thought he was going to be the guy. Obviously, the kind of last couple of years, we've seen David Duke be really impactful when he gets moments for the Nets on limited minutes. So I assumed that he was going to kind of take over here. But he really didn't do that. And I think you could put him down as a disappointment. But obviously, the standout performer was Jalen Wilson. I thought he was fantastic. Certainly didn't expect that from him. Kind of had to learn about his game during Summer League because I didn't know too much about him even during the draft. And obviously he is a bit older than everyone else. He was a 4-year guy in college, which is quite unusual nowadays for guys that get drafted. And that did show. There was a maturity in his game. Really impressed with that. He can shoot. He's a gritty defender. He can win boards. Going back to that Cavs game, obviously where we went out, I was really impressed with his defense down the clutch, because he locked up guys, I think 3 or 4 times in the last few minutes during that comeback. So that was impressive to see. So yeah, it was nice to see someone like that do well. Armoni Brooks as well, fantastic player. Definitely deserves his 2-way contract that he's just been given by the Nets. So excited to see him next year. Those 2 guys in particular, it's just nice to have guys that you think will utilize their 2-way contract and actually play some minutes for the Nets. And I think that's what I'll take away from this, is we do have a few guys on that team that can contribute next year. So that's exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah, as you say, like Jalen Wilson, what was he, 51 in the second round? And he got all Summer League second team honors. And he just did a little bit of everything. 17 points, 2.6 assists, 7.8 rebounds, a steal, and just over one turnover a game. Shooting 43% from the floor, 45% from three. He just, hands up. I've only watched the highlights of Summer League, but from what I saw and the analysis that I've read, it just feels like he's like you say, he's just ready. Like, he's 22. He's done those extra years. He was obviously a Jayhawk in college, and that's a serious school. And in his senior year just gone, he was the guy. He was legit. So he just feels NBA ready. And he's just got that energy, that high motor, makes the right choice, makes the right decisions. And yeah, just feels like an absolute steal. Like you said, Armani Brooks, the Nets fans love a guy that gets buckets in Summer League. We loved it with Cam Thomas, and we love it with Armani Brooks as well. I'm just pulling up his stats on Summer League because he was an absolute bucket as well. 17.8 points on 50% from the floor, 47% from three. He's got 5 rebounds as well, because I know he's not a big guy. And a couple of assists and a steal. So yeah, again, exactly the kind of guy you want, sort of developing in the two-way, spending a bit of time in Long Island in the G League affiliate, and hopefully doing a bit of a job for us. But yeah, like you say, just the way that the Summer League Nets kind of galvanized together, and they got into the Summer League playoffs, and I know it's just Summer League, and they lost out to the eventual champions, the Cavs, which were the only team to beat the Nets in the Summer League. But yeah, it was just, anything we can cheer about, I think at the moment, I'm just going to absolutely grab with both hands. So yeah, it's good to see that Armani Brooks has got that second two-way along with Jalen Wilson. The Nets have waived Raekwon Gray, so we now have, obviously this year, we're allowed 3 two-way spots, up from last year where we were only allowed 2. If I'm the Nets, I'm not in a rush to fill that third two-way spot. As you said, I don't think that David Duke Jr. Has earned it at all. He's a guy that's, spent 2 years in and around the Brooklyn Nets in the G League. He's played almost 50 NBA games. He started NBA games. Say what you want about the state of the teams that he started on, but he has started NBA games, and he should have just, in my opinion, been head and shoulders above some of these other guys. And he wasn't. He's getting absolutely embarrassed by some of the other guys that we had picked up. So yeah, it's a shame, because I know that he did he sort of turn down a two-way because he wanted to bet on himself and get a proper NBA contract. I seem to remember that story from kicking around last year. But I don't think he's done it. And also talking about people that didn't have the Summer League that they were expecting, we need to talk about Noah Clowney as well. Our first round draft pick. I think we had 21 and 22 in this year's draft. Obviously 22 we picked Dariq Whitehead, who didn't play due to injury. So it was all eyes on Noah Clowney. And he was pretty lousy, to be honest, but we knew he'd be a project, and to borrow a phrase normally associated with Jason Tatum, he's only 19. So I think I read somewhere that he's the youngest guy that the Nets have ever drafted. So massive project. But yeah, he didn't look great for the guy that we shot our first draft pick with. What did you think of Noah Clowney?
Yeah, I mean, he's really, really raw as a prospect, and he was. I always kind of thought when the Nets had those 2 draft picks, was it 21, 22. I knew that they would pick one prospect and one guy that they think that could probably go in. And I think Clowney was that prospect. As you say, he's only 19, but he does have a long way to go. And I think there's obviously been reports today that he's probably going to be playing on Long Island, which is probably the best thing for him. Obviously, to play against grown men, let him figure out how to play at kind of this level. Because I don't think you will see any minutes for the Nets this year, and that's not a problem. I don't think they're under the illusion that he needs to play this year. I think he can certainly develop. But if you do look at obviously kind of similar, we obviously drafted Claxton, we've drafted Sharp, we've drafted Allen, who at times when they first came in didn't look like they were ready to go, but obviously they looked like they would develop much quicker than Clowney. There's certainly aspects of his game that are interesting, I think. Obviously the fact he can shoot, even though he didn't shoot very well at all in Summer League. The fact he can do that is a big plus for a guy of his size. But I think it would be foolish for the Nets to kind of put him in too early. And just let him figure it out, let him grow. You know what it's like. We see guys come in at 18, 19, and they still can grow an extra couple inches, and they can certainly fill out their frame. We've obviously seen that a lot with Nick Claxton over the last year. So yeah, I think there's definitely a player there, but in terms of when that player will come out, it could take quite a while, and I think we've just got to accept that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think looking at his stats, he's 6'10", and there's a phrase where he's saying if you're going to lose big. Like you can't teach someone to be 6'10". So like he's got the physical attributes, and as you say, his shooting stroke looks good. Obviously, didn't in the 5 games in Summer League, it didn't look great, but he's demonstrated it before, and hopefully under the right guidance, and there's a heck of a coaching staff down in Long Island, so hopefully he'll get minutes. And obviously he will get minutes, but hopefully he'll kind of build on that, get in the weight room, be in and around the nets as well, and take it from there. So yeah, I think it's just having a look through the comments. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment to us, and we can see what's up. Big up to Theo and to Ramon and to Nathaniel. Matty Riley says Matt's been on the sunbeds. Matt's not been on the sunbeds. Matt's been on holiday to the Isle of Wight. So that's why I'm such a bronzed god at the moment. But thanks for stopping by, bruv. That's kind of it for the questions and stuff that we wanted to cover with Summer League. Obviously, we've got a lot of new signings already that we've got. Your Lonnie Walkers, your Dennis Smith Juniors, your Darius Baisleys and things like that. But I think we'll leave that to another episode. I want to get straight on to the mailbag. Obviously, we've been away for a long while, so it really was great to see so many people sending in questions. So we really do appreciate that. But let's get going. The first one from Register 99. How many minutes per game will Cam Thomas average over the season, and will it be more than last year? Aidan, what do you reckon, Cam Thomas?
Big question. I think things have went kind of quiet on Cam when that was kind of a big topic last year. Was obviously Cam's minutes, and we've not really heard much from him since the Nets got knocked out in the playoffs. But I don't know. There's certainly opportunities for him. Obviously, the chances that Ben Simmons comes in and takes up some guard minutes, that's probably going to be quite a high chance that that's going to happen. We've brought in Lonnie Walker, we've brought in Dennis Smith Jr., Derek Whitehead. These guys are guards as well, so there's going to be competition there. Obviously, Harris, Mills, and Curry went the other way, but they have kind of reinstalled guys that can come in and take up minutes. But I mean, we've seen some wonderful nights from Cam as a net, but he's obviously not playing the way that the Nets want him to, or else he would have been playing consistently last year. We know there's a player in there, but he's just not doing some things right. I mean, if he can come in this season, be a bit more passive at times, put a bit more effort in defensively, which was really, he was probably the worst defender on the Nets last year, and that was hard at times because we had some poor guys. But I mean, if he can come in and put a bit of a graft in there and and be a bit more sensible when going forward. I don't see why he couldn't get 20 minutes or so in this team. I'd like to see him get 20 minutes, but who knows? It just all depends on how the Nets are willing to run the guard rotation this year, because I thought we were light at guard, but there's actually still quite a lot of names in there that could put their name in the hat for some minutes. So, what about yourself? What do you think?
Nice. Just looking at last year's stats, he played in 57 games for the Nets and averaged 16.6 minutes. So yeah, if he can bump that up to 20, that would be sort of obviously an increase on last year. But what I'll say for Jacques Vaughn, and I do think this is a good thing, is that he's not afraid of benching people. You saw it with Edmund Sumner last year as well. You know, Nets fans loved him. He was doing well, but for whatever reason, Jacques Vaughn decided not to play him in the playoffs at all, I think. But he's not afraid of going with the guys that he wants to go with, and he's been quite open about the reason why Cam has got fewer minutes, and it's because he's a turnstile on defense. What I get, and obviously we don't get the whole picture. We're only seeing stuff that gets kind of put out there, but you can see that Cam was very, very close with KD and Kyrie. He, has this demeanor of not getting excited and ain't shit funny and being, not a particularly charismatic guy, and takes himself a bit seriously. So maybe in that, does that also sort of include a little bit of arrogance? Who knows? I'm not saying that he does, but I'm just saying it's something that might be there. But yeah, with this new era of the Nets, with this new look squad, there's a real opportunity for him to come in this team and get some decent minutes if he puts the work in on the defensive end. Saying that, I think some of the additions that we have had, especially in the guards, have been defensive. That has been their calling card. Some really good defensive players. So maybe that's there to bolster out and to mean that we can play Cam Thomas. So it'll be interesting to see. And I hope he does. The dude, is an absolute bucket. He scored. He had that in crazy sort of Cam Sanity run where he scored 40 points back to back. So, what's not to love? He can do it, on the biggest stage, in the brightest of lights. So yeah, we want more Cam Thomas minutes. But yeah, we shall see. Big up Nets fan, Book Nets podcast. Let's go. Welcome back, boys. Welcome back yourself. Riley in the Discord says, what are your expectations for this season coming? Are there any moves you dislike, and what changes would you make? I don't really have any expectations. I just want to see a team with a bit of an identity. And I don't just mean like a marketing, Brooklyn Grit hashtags and stuff. I want to actually see a team that are all sort of getting in there and playing for each other and all that kind of stuff and evolving and stuff. And we know it's a work in progress, but we'll get there as we go on. Any moves I like or dislike? I think, in terms of free agency, and we'll probably get onto this in a little while, but getting free, obviously with it, the whole big thing is Dame, right? What's Dame going to do? Who's he going to bring in with us? If we're going to be a team that's on that 3-team trade. And I think because Miami and Portland are all kind of sort of dragging their feet on that, I think it's kind of gummed up the free agency cogs a little bit. So I'm going to sort of stop with that a little bit and kind of reserve judgment. But I like what I've seen so far. How about you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think in terms of expectations for the season coming, I think about now we're probably about a 500 team. Like the team that we've got, if we can get in more wins than games we lose, then we'll probably be happy at this stage with what we've got. Obviously, as you say, it's very early on in the summer and things can change quite quickly. So we don't know what's going to happen, but there's certainly a good expectation that we can make the playoffs. And I think if we can consistently play our guys and we can build around what we have and find our identity, even though there is an identity there already, I think if we can build on that, then that's really important. yeah, in terms of moves that I like, love the Dennis Smith Jr. pickup. I think he was a superb defender last year. He's really athletic. Lonnie Walker as well. He had a great end to the season last year with the Lakers and played some really big moments in the playoffs and obviously essentially won a game by himself. And if we're picking a guy like that up for the minimum, then you're delighted, really. So Darius Baisley is not someone that I know a ton of, so I don't want to say that I'm really happy with that. But from what I've heard, excited to see what he looks like, and he'll probably get a bit of a bigger role here. So we'll wait and see what that looks like. Yeah, I mean, in terms of what changes would you make, I think I'm the same as yourself, Matt. It's very similar to when KD put in his trade request. It kind of put a halt on the market completely, and then once he decided he wasn't going to do it, there was a ton of trades within a couple of days. And it does feel that that's the case, that there seems to be so many teams that have put their name in to say, oh, we'd be interested in Tyler Hero. It's like, of course you'd be interested in Tyler Hero. He's like a 23-year-old guy who scored 20 points, won Sixth Man of the Year just a season ago. Like, why would you not want to pick that up for a pick or two? So we'll wait and see. It just really depends on what happens there. I don't think the Nets are going to make a big move. A lot of talk of that has died down. So, but I think a lot of people made peace with that as well. Is that this is what we're going to go for. There might be a few additions, maybe a couple of really good additions, but nothing team changing. So, yeah, I think we can go into this season pretty happy with where we are and how we'll do.
I think this whole season depends on a certain Mr. Ben Simmons. I think if he comes back, not even all-star Ben Simmons, Defensive Player of the Year Ben Simmons, just if he comes back as being able to contribute in some way, shape, or form to this team as a ball distributor, as, applying rim pressure and being a defensive stopper, I think that's going to be absolutely huge. But yeah, I think that we could say that for another episode as well and see what's going on. But yeah, so yeah, I think most of the guys we have brought in have had some sort of defensive identity. So I think that's going to be where we're going. But yeah, we shall see. Paul Mack, big up Paul Mack from Twitter. Now the KD Kyrie era is well and truly behind us. What are your personal highlights and worst moments from this time? Go for it, Aidan.
I'm going to try and keep this basketball related because I don't want to talk about...
We've got to.
I can't talk about all the off-court stuff because...
We're done with it.
We're done with that. We're done. But yeah, I mean, there was plenty of highlights. I mean, the first two games against the Bucks in that series were just absolutely incredible. I mean, at that time, the Nets were unstoppable, and that was nice. It was a nice feeling, even though it feels so long ago now. I got to see KD and Kyrie in person in January, and that was really special for me. Obviously, getting to see that before it ended, so that was certainly a highlight for me. There's obviously a lot of bad stuff. Obviously, that the first two games in that Bucks series were amazing, but that downfall after that was brutal. And I think the Boston series as well was really, really tough. Seeing us get swept like that, and I think it just at that moment, that Boston series we felt like we had a team that could do it. It just showed how far away we were. And even though many people didn't want to say it, and we kind of came back like last season with a similar team, we all knew from that moment that it wasn't good enough to go on and win it. Or it was probably good enough, but the chemistry wasn't there to be able to take it to the next level. So I think that was probably the worst moment, because you just knew that this experiment was going to go down in flames. And somehow I think we've came out of it for the better, which is good, because we do have a future now. We're maybe not contenders, but there's something to build on, which is a good feeling.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we had lightning in a bottle, and we just couldn't capitalize on it. Be it global pandemics or unseen injuries, it just never happened. I think personal highlights. It was just when it was good, it was really good. It was it's fun to have the best players in the league play for your team. And being able to watch Kevin Durant up close every week, a couple of times a week for your team is just it's just a pleasure. Like there are teams that don't get, top 2 players in the league playing for their team. And I don't want to, gloss over that. It was very, very special. And like you say, like there was some absolutely monster performances. I think there was a game where KD, Kyrie and James Harden sort of combined for nearly 100 points or something. It was an absolute joke. And worst moment has to be KD's toe on the line. That was, if you're going to break it down into like a second of the worst thing ever, it was just, the stakes, the momentary confusion of was it a 3, was it not a 3, was his toe on the line, was it not on the line? It was just, that was an absolute heartbreaker. And yeah, like you say, when we started losing, your Bruce Browns and your Jeff Greens, who, bring massive props to them. They've got their chip now. DeAndre Jordan has his chip now. So that's mental. Yeah, so there was just a lot of really good players that just weren't all good at the same time. But it's weird. Like, I think having had that time again, you'd probably still all make those moves if you had your head screwed on straight. Because I think like probably 9 times out of 10 it does lead to something. But it's the downfall is well documented. But I'm going to choose to remember the good times. You smile because it happened. Don't cry because it's over. That kind of vibe. Next question. Colin Brady. Odds on Dayron being the actual backup center at the end of the year. In minutes, yes. In role for what we want, I don't know, man. I would love Dayron. I do love Dayron. He's a big old lump. He does rebound. Obviously, everyone just wants a backup center to shoot threes as well, which he doesn't do. I think given a bit more development, and I think there's going to be a bit more structure this year, maybe I would love him to. But, we've got Clax is obviously our nailed on 5. We're going to be playing a little bit small. So, maybe with Ben Simmons, obviously, who knows what he's going to do. So maybe he's going to go and almost be backup 5 for some bits and pieces. And I think Dayron will definitely be in the mix just by dint of the fact we don't have anyone else. But yeah, I think unless a move is made, I think out of necessity, he will be de facto our backup center. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Don't really have too much more to say. I personally, I would just like to see the Nets bring in like an old head center just to play those 10, 15 minutes where Clark isn't playing and just kind of grab rebounds and pass to our guards from rebounds like that. I just want someone to do that. I'd love to see Dayron do well, but unfortunately, like for him to develop, I just don't think it's possible behind Claxton when he's going to eat up the majority of those minutes. But yeah, I mean, he has shown glimpses that he can play. I think there was a strange fact. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember, but there was someone that released that Dayron Sharp has historic rebound numbers, like offensive rebounds over the last couple of seasons, that he's like going on to be like the best offensive rebounder of like all time. I can't actually remember. I can't remember who it was, but I think it might have been Bill Simmons' podcast. Actually, I think that's what it was on. But yeah, no. To be honest, I think you're right in terms of Simmons. I do think there's going to be small ball moments where he's going to be the 5, where they try and shoot the lights out with him kind of as the facilitator. So we'll see. I think you're right. He's kind of has to be the backup 5 at the moment because there's literally no one else to take those minutes.
So Dayron Sharp's 9.4 offensive rebounds per 36 minutes leads the NBA. So if we're talking per 36, Dayron's the guy. We don't need any more rebounding. We've got Dayron. But yeah, what a ledge. Tyler, big up Tyler from Brooklyn Nets London. Just done up his social account. So Brooklyn Nets LDN, give him a follow on Twitter. How are the Nets going to address their 3-point shooting after Mills, Harris, Curry all moved on this offseason? Aidan.
Oh, I don't know. I actually think the Nets are trying to move away from the all bombs blazing where they're constantly shooting threes. I think Vaughan's kind of realised that it hasn't been working as well as they wanted over the last couple of years, and I think they've obviously moved kind of more to an athletic guys who can score all three ways, guys who can hit the occasional three, who can also get to the rim. That was obviously a big thing in the Philly series. We really didn't have anyone that could get to the rim and score there. It is something that we saw a lot in Summer League, which I don't know if that's a hint towards what they're trying to see guys do. But I mean, Lonnie Walker and Dennis Smith Jr. are certainly guys who can explode and get to the rim and score. And we've obviously seen glimpses of Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges doing that as well. So I don't know. I think they may address it in terms of they'll certainly try and get the ball in the hands of Johnson and Bridges. I think they're going to take a lot of shots next year, but they're maybe looking to change up how they're looking to score this year, because I don't think we're going to be putting up historic threes like we have in recent seasons, and I think that's okay. I just want to see the ball get in, because at the end of last year we were just struggling to score. We were good enough defensively, but we just needed to put the ball in the basket, and I think they'll probably go down the route of just more probable shots this year, which is absolutely fine, instead of flinging threes at just historic numbers as we've seen obviously in the last few years.
Yeah. And wasn't Joe Harris like something like 7% from three in the playoffs last year? It was something
I wouldn't want to know.
Absolutely
It was
horrific. Bad. But yeah, I mean, who's the best 3-point shooter on this team now? It could be someone like Royce O'Neal. Like, could probably be is like our sniper, which, you know, is, I love Royce O'Neal, but you know, if he's your guy from the wing, like, that's not ideal. But yeah, we'll see. You know, maybe that's the conversation where Cam Thomas comes back or gets more minutes and things like that. But you know, we shall see. Yeah, very interesting. I think, yeah, like you say, it's going to be kind of a bit more scoring by committee at the moment. It's not going to be KD goes off for 30 and no one else gets in double digits. It's going to be, you know, you're going to see more people putting up 12 to 15 points. And obviously, you know, that our guy now is Mikal Bridges. So we're gonna be as good as he is. Obviously, the NBA is going to know that he's the guy now, and you know, maybe he gets a little bit of scouting, and you know, people are going to start doubling him and stuff like that. But yeah, we shall see. It's going to be a lot more scoring by committee, I think. Nice one, Tyler. The Hoop Genius, Mo Moonsey, has left a question for us. Big up, Mo. He said, Dame, you guys can offer a better package, in my opinion, in a straight up deal. Do we bother, you know, talking about getting involved for Tyler Herro and all this kind of stuff? Why don't we just go big whale hunting and go for Dame? Obviously, he's been the linchpin of basically all the conversation in Nets Twitter since we got knocked out. Since Dame really said that he wanted to go leave Portland. Obviously, he said that he wants to go to Miami now, and no one else should bother. So I guess that's kind of put it in there. But for me, I always thought that the Nets shouldn't or wouldn't trade for Dame. Obviously, he's a fantastic player. He was, you know, in that contentious top 75 NBA player of all time list, all NBA talent. But it's that contract, man. He's getting paid. He's on track to get paid something like $60 million when he's like in the next 3 years, when he's like late 30s. So yeah, absolutely gross. But yeah, give me your thoughts about the whole Dame trade.
Yeah, I mean, we probably would have been. I'm glad we started the podcast now and not like a month ago, because we just had a month of Dame Lillard talk, which would have been tedious. So I'm quite glad we didn't have that. I don't know. I think at the start I could get behind the idea of Dame. Obviously, he is Mr. Loyal, and we kind of went through a period where we had superstars come in and go really quickly, and it might have been nice to have someone like that. But obviously, James Harden was the exact same before we got James Harden. So who knows what would have happened over the next couple of years. I think at the start I could have been convinced that a Dame trade would have been good for the right package, but it had to be with like another player. I don't think Dame coming in and joining Bridges, Johnson and Clarkson is still enough. And who knows what we'd actually had to give up for that. But now I think I've been put off by it just because it does look like it'd be quite a lot of kind of picks and maybe the odd player or two that we need to give up. And obviously we've just got picks back and we've just got this ammo that we can use in either trades or to actually pick players. So I think it would be a shame to give that up so quickly, especially for something that might not have came to fruition. And if we were just going to be a kind of Eastern Conference semis team, we've been there already, and it's not that great. I mean, you're either wanting to just be there or be a kind of team that's got room to grow. And I think at the moment, I'd rather be in that bracket where we can grow. That's not to say that if the right player comes along, we've got the pieces to make a trade, that the Nets shouldn't go for it. But I think you're spot on in terms of the fact Dame is getting a bit older now. He hasn't had terrible injuries. Obviously, had that really weird kind of abdominal thing a couple of seasons ago, which has caused a little bit of time off for him. But I don't know, like Portland, Dame's a fantastic player, but have Portland ever been in contention fully? I don't think they have. And they have had at times as good a team as the Nets have now. So yeah, I'm quite happy to just let someone else do that, see how they get on. But if we can get involved, as you say, for someone like Tyler Hero, why not?
Yeah, nice. I think so. Yeah. Forget Dame, like you say. If we'd have to absolutely move mountains to get him, and he's not getting us any closer to the chip, I think, than we have been. So sod it. Nave Hine, who's going to fill the remaining two-way spots? I think we kind of covered that. But thanks for your question anyway, mate. Means a lot. Nets fan, how would you grade this off-season? Also, what are your thoughts on the Nets taking a gap year to evaluate the talent on the roster? I love that. So if we say that a C is the same, B is we got a bit better, A is we got way better, D we got a little bit worse, and F is we got way, way worse, what grade would you give us for this past off-season so far?
I think it would be unfair to give the Nets anything lower than a B. They've not done anything wrong. I think, obviously, you can look at on paper who we've brought in, and you can say, yeah, they're good moves. There's nothing needle changing there. But I mean, at the end of the day, they're decent enough moves. But if you look at what they've done in terms of freeing up money, we're getting rid of Joe Harris, Patty Mills, not kind of picking up options on guys that really didn't need to come back. I think they've done a fantastic job considering the cap hell we were in the last couple of years. I think we've got something like 11 million in cap space at the moment. And if we do make a trade for someone like Tyler Hero, that's going to make things a lot easier because we only need to give up like one contract to do that instead of having to give up a few. I think they've done very well at kind of making themselves flexible in case something does happen. And that's all you can really ask for them just now is to be flexible, be ready. We've been in this situation before, obviously, when we freed up cap space at the end of the D'Angelo Russell era Nets. And that was an exciting time to be a fan because anything could happen. And as you said earlier, if we keep building with what we have right now, we've got room to improve. And I would say in terms of what Sean Marks has done, definitely about a B.
I'll go with that. Yeah, I think even if you were pessimistic and say that the players in versus player out are all sideways moves at best, like you say that the housekeeping and bookkeeping that they've done to move off money and get younger and stuff is all just positive stuff. So I'll say a B as well, maybe a B plus, just to go crazy. And thoughts on taking a gap year to evaluate the talent on the roster. I think that's a fantastic idea. I think, like you said, we've got the kind of assets now to not make tons of crazy moves in the draft and stuff, but we've got stuff that we can kind of just plod along with, and we don't have to get involved with anyone else. We can just kind of, plod along and develop and all this kind of stuff. So I think, touch wood, I think the Nets are in a good place. We're not going to win a chip anytime soon. but I think you can still be in a good place in that, developing identities and making marginal gains. If we can do 100 things that are 1% better than they were, all of a sudden add that all up and we're 100% better. So I think it's I'm excited about this Nets squad. I'm very much looking forward to digging in deeper to these new Nets and seeing what they offer. And yeah, it's going to be good, and it's going to be a heck of a ride, and it's going to be way less stressful. I'm hoping. Last couple. Rich Barrett. Massive love for Rich Barrett. NBA UK fans. OG. You were warned about Kyrie. Now he's gone. What is your honest opinion of him? Still one of my favorite basketball players, but a headache. I'm going to keep it brief.
Yeah, just his own worst enemy, really. I mean, that's all Kyrie is. I mean, as you say, he's just a fantastic basketball talent who should have been probably the most coveted free agent this summer by a long shot. In a free agent summer that was really, really weak, he should have been the guy that everyone was wanting to clear cap space for. But he's just, you can say misunderstood, but at the end of the day, he's made so many errors now, evident errors that it could be up for debate. But in my eyes, I think he could have been fantastic at the Nets. But at the end of the day, when he was gone, it was a sigh of relief. It wasn't what are we going to do without Kyrie? It was a sigh of relief, and that says everything you really need to know about the guy. It was really, really tough rooting for him last year. I think me and you had some tough episodes where we had to talk about Kyrie when a lot of stuff was going on behind the scenes, and it was really difficult for us to kind of not be really negative on the guy. We're a positive podcast, but it's nice to not be in that situation now where we need to root for Kyrie.
Yeah. Good luck to him. Good luck to him in his Anta shoes in Dallas. I think we've left the most important question till last. Big up Sam, who says, how many fish fingers do you think Nick Claxton could eat in one sitting, sauce allowed for lubrication? First off, what sauce should you have with fish fingers?
I'm ketchup.
Ketchup. More of a mayo. Tartar sauce. If we're going crazy,
tartar sauce, yeah, I could get behind tartar or mayo, but yeah, I like ketchup with fish fingers.
Underrated, yeah. You can't. Either way, you can't go wrong. I reckon if he's had a particular, he's been in the gym, he's an athletic guy, he's a pro athlete. I reckon he could get up there to his jersey number. I'm saying 33, if he's allowed sauce.
Yeah, I mean, if he's allowed sauce, of course. But I'd say he could probably finish off a few jumbo packets. Like, it depends though. Like, there's so many different sizes now because you've obviously got the bird's eye small ones, but you get the chunky ones. But if we're talking standard, I'd probably say about 30.
Official size and weight, fish fingers. That's me. Happy days. I'm just going to check through. That's all we got. I'm just going to check through the chat one last time. Big up Ramon Castro. We're talking about Nets highlights from this past era, and he says, my personal highlight is that Blake Griffin made behind the back pass to Bruce Brown, then to Mike James going alley-oop pass to KD. That has to be up there. I can't believe I forgot that one. Massive dub for the Nets there. So yeah, love that. And a little bit of love for Clowney, Jack Lloyd. Big up Jack. I don't understand the Clowney hate. He's obviously a project, but I think he showed a high defensive upside with his offensive ability being limited by playing with guards like Chandler and DDJ. Yeah, true. Another reason why DDJ was such a letdown. He should have been better. He should be making people around him better. I think he was chucking shots, especially in that last game. I think he was like 3 for 25 or something horrific. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but we will watch Noah Clowney's development over this season and beyond. But yeah, there's one last thing for me to say, which is it's good to be back, and thank you so much for coming back. I'm really, really glad we're doing this again. We're going to try and be back every Tuesday night. The pod will be in your feeds every Wednesday morning. Get us on YouTube, get us on socials, and thank you very much. We'll see you next time.